Γεια σας.
Γεια σας, καλησπέρα.
Καλησπέρα, καλησπέρα.
Γεια σας.
Αντέχετε.
Cool.
Αντέχουμε.
Αντέχετε, χαίρομαι.
Καλησπέρα.
Καλησπέρα, Νίκη.
Πάρα πολύ ωραίο το συνέδριο.
Χαίρομαι. Όχι να ευλογάμε μόνοι μας τα γένια μας, να ευλογάμε εμείς τα γένια μας.
Είναι αλήθεια όμως, άρα πρέπει να τη λέμε.
Λοιπόν, το συνέδριο έχει σημασία ότι θα μπορεί, θα μπορεί κάποιος να το επισκεφθεί, διότι θα ανέβει στον ήλιο και θα μπορεί να το επισκεφθεί. Οπότε, γι' αυτό το λόγο κάναμε και μια προσπάθεια να είναι στα αγγλικά.
Ναι.
Λοιπόν, και συνεχίζω στα αγγλικά. Good afternoon. After an intense 3 days conference dedicated to digital humanities, we thought it would be appropriate to raise certain questions regarding digital humanities. Not so much for answering these questions, but to give food for thought. So we'll have a discussion with 4 of our colleagues from the Institute that were part and parcel of this conference in the organizing committee. And these are, and I will ask them to give their thoughts about it with this order. First, I will give the word to Dr. Evangelini Markou, then to Dr. Viron Antoniadis, then to Anastasia Yagaki, and last but not least, to Kostas Tabakis. Now, the main questions that we would like to discuss, it's first, of course, regards methodology. Methodology, is this methodology as useful as traditional research? Can data collection be considered as research? The second stream of questions regards website and databases as a tool and their longevity and updates. What happens when funding ends and websites and databases need specialized update? How do we keep our data safe in a constantly growing technical environment? We're historians, we're not technicians, and now we come to the last and most difficult situation. It's our communication and collaboration between researchers and technicians. It's a new era of collaboration that arises here. New tools are created, data input and diffusion to a specialized but also a wider public is promoted. So collaborations between researchers and technicians open new horizons that can contribute to the diffusion of knowledge, but also to the organization of the research. The open access is a very useful and valuable idea, but it has a lot of problems also. So let's see now what our colleague, Dr. Evangelini Markou, would like to say.
Let's start with one of the questions that you have raised. The website and databases, their sustainability, the way they can actually survive and be maintained after they have been created and after the funding has ended. That I think is a very, very big question, a big problem that concerns us all. Everybody that has presented databases that were created by specific funding in their institutions are definitely asking the question, what will happen when funding will end? What will happen if the open access tools and the tools that have been used to create those databases are no longer updated. If, for example, free and open access tool becomes obsolete, that means that the creators decide that they will no longer sustain it. So actually, the database and the website that we have created using that tool will no longer function. And this is a big question that I would like to raise in this roundtable and discuss with you. What can we do? How can we actually make sure that our databases become useful and they are always alive, even if technology changes, even if whatever supports the core of the website, which is all the technical parts of it, actually, if it doesn't function anymore, and this is not our fault. And on a second hand, I would like to discuss all these sustainability issues of a researcher building a website, being able to maintain it himself, and then at some point, this researcher doesn't update the websites anymore. So this is a question maybe of big collaborative projects being more sustainable, because if a project is a big project having many collaborators, even if one researcher doesn't work on it anymore, there are others that will continue this huge bulk of work. So these are my initial thoughts that could tackle a discussion on this huge subject.
Thank you, Evangelini. And let's give the word, the screen now to Viron Antoniadis, these are younger colleagues in the Institute, so I rely on them regarding new databases and new ideas.
Thank you very much for this. I'm sorry I can't answer the question regarding methodology, but I think I could extend it a bit towards a more philosophical side. So my approach is, and question at the same time, what happens if we sometimes merge or lose ourselves with the new digital tools? I mean, personally, I can spend like a week trying to incorporate 500 or 600 sites in a map. And then I'm trying to make the map looks better. And then to make it, try to answer more questions, historical questions with a map. So my question is, this creation, this product that everybody can use freely afterwards, is it just a tool, or it has taken another, or it has been made a real part of the investigation, a part of the research? And when we're making these new maps, and I think Konstantinos Kopanias could answer as well, are we creating or are we making new research, or we're just using a digital tool? I just wanted to raise this subject first. I don't know if anybody wants to answer to that from his experience.
We'll see now. We will keep your thinking, and we will come back. So let's see now what Dr. Anastasia Yagaki from the Byzantine section would like to say about these issues.
Hello from me too, again. I think it became clear from all the conference that although we started mostly with specific case studies, each of our speakers and colleagues put forward all these problematic that we are now speaking about and facing. And it was very interesting because some of them also had, as you said previously, a philosophical aspect. To continue on what my colleague Viron Antoniadis said, perhaps we should see this I mean the digital humanities and this interconnection between humanities and digital infrastructures, not only as something that we are doing, I mean, it poses some questions to material that we already treat on our traditional methodological way. I think when we put our data under this perspective, I mean the digital view, then perhaps we are able to re-ask older questions and also pose new ones. I was able to see that during one project, but I think also other colleagues are leading to this, possibly are leading to this conclusion as well. And I mean, perhaps we are doing this to test the applicability in our research of these new digital tools, but also on the contrary, this helps us to elaborate more questions on our material that we are already dealing with. Also regarding the subject of communication and collaboration, yes, indeed, I think we need to communicate more one with the other, link data one with the other. Very characteristic case, as also has been told during the conference, was the Roman Athens, the digitization of the archaeological material, and the new project, the Roman Attica. I mean, researchers doing similar things, but not always knowing that the researcher next to them is doing a similar thing. I noticed that we have now the European Association for Digital Humanities, and it's their person or a foundation or someone who is responsible for a project can give this association the possibility to promote its project by putting it on its platform. So there, little by little, more projects arise, and one can search similar questions and see if there are similar projects dealing with that. So I mean, I just mentioned that as an example to say that we need a way to communicate more with one another and exchange ideas, and not each one of us perhaps starting what interests him and continue that, but also asking and much more communicating and leading to synergies and the new collaborations. That was 2 points I really wanted to share. I don't know.
Thank you, Dr. Yagaki. The truth is, digital humanities allow us to revisit all scientific research, the whole bundle, let's say, and this is very important. But then it's still very important the questions that we have to raise on certain research questions. The research questions cannot be identified with digital humanities. For instance, a computer can do our work. I mean, everything, historical research can be led by a computer, because computer can very well pose questions and knows the language very well. The problem also is the problem that we have not in communication only between us, but between historians and technicians. We don't really understand the needs of this tool, and they don't understand in all cases, they don't really understand what are our sensibilities, let's say, sensitivities on that issue. But let our colleague Kostas Tabakis from the section of Neo-Hellenic Research pose some new questions, answer some old ones.
Thank you. Since I'm the last to have the spotlight, I have the privilege of hearing all my other colleagues. And before I focus on a specific issue, I would like to take the opportunity to note one or two things on questions that have already been posed. The first is I find very interesting the fact that historians puzzle about and wonder whether data collection is research. Since, and my dirty secret is that I started as a physicist, as most historians of science did. In physics, there was never a question whether CERN is research, being a new kind of data collection entity. So I think this is a question that sort of answers itself. Any way that we find to approach data, a new one or an old one reconsidered, I think is by definition research. The second question I find very interesting, and that has already been mentioned, is the launch video of our projects. And most of us are anxious whether our databases will function in 10 years or 20 years based on bitter experience. I find very interesting that almost no one speaks about the digitized data itself. We sort of assume that they are eternal. The fact is that most of the collections that first digitized their data, like the Library of Congress, have a significant problem on how to keep having this data. There are no electronic devices that can operate for 20 or 30 years without problems. And you have to digitalize them and find new ways of storing them. And this is something that the Library of Congress spends millions each year doing. So it's not only the databases that need to be considered, it's the actual data itself. It's not eternal. It can go away. Hard disks malfunction, and they are expensive. Finally, I would like to revisit a theme that many of our speakers discussed, and this is the connection between, let's say, public history and digital humanities, or more specifically on how digital humanities and their tools, because I am a bit skeptical even after the conference on the epistemic grounds of calling something digital humanities. And I think that it has been made clear that the tools of digital humanities force us to reconsider how we do history. I think they reformat our connection with this nebulous entity we call the general public, and it's now fashionable to call the stakeholders, in the same way that the mass paperback book forces us to reconsider how we do history. It's something that's accessible and is becoming more accessible with each generation, I mean the digital format. New kinds of public, from students to people that do not read that much, to new kinds of media are enforcing themselves in our historical discourse, and in my opinion, they should. So we have to think that a digital humanities project, by definition, has to take into consideration more audiences than the scholarly ones. This is not my idea. This is not some kind of revelation I had while working next to my pipes in the National Hellenic Research Foundation. It's something that many people have mentioned and many people have discussed, but I think it should be far more central to our discussions. I hope I didn't speak very much. My wife always tells me I speak too much.
No, you didn't, although you were a bit threatening. You began with some threatening ideas, and then, okay, things went well. So, Professor Taxiakis-Kollias, would you like to to say a few things about Anavathmis project? Το μικρόφωνο.
Ναι, ευχαριστώ πολύ για πρόσκληση, την πρόταση. Αυτή τη στιγμή πρέπει να πω ότι δεν έχω κάτι συγκεκριμένο. Απλώς η σκέψη ότι στο Ινστιτούτο, ίσως επειδή δεν μπορούσα να τα παρακολουθήσω όλα, να είναι κάποια επανάληψη και να μην είναι κάποια ιδιαίτερη σκέψη. Αλλά στο Ινστιτούτο Ιστορικών Ερευνών διεξάγονται οι ψηφιακές ανθρωπιστικές επιστήμες εδώ και αρκετά χρόνια. Και είναι πολύ θετικό το ότι με ένα τέτοιο συνέδριο έρχεται κατά κάποιο τρόπο και ακούγονται όλες οι απόψεις, πολλές απόψεις από διάφορες σκοπιές και διάφορες περιόδους, και έτσι είναι δυνατόν η προσφορά, το έργο και η προσφορά του Ινστιτούτου να γίνει περισσότερο συνειδητή. Βέβαια, πρέπει να προσπαθήσουμε να τηρούμε την ισορροπία μεταξύ της έρευνας της, ας πούμε, κανονικής, της μέχρι τώρα, και των νέων τεχνολογιών, κάτι το οποίο γενικότερα στη ζωή μας δεν είναι εύκολο, εννοώ να επιτυγχάνουμε την ισορροπία στους ρυθμούς της εποχής μας. Απλώς συγχαρητήρια που πήγε το συνέδριο τόσο είχε επιτυχία, και εύχομαι να συνεχιστούν και με άλλες τέτοιες επιτυχημένες δραστηριότητες να συνεχιστεί το έργο του. Ευχαριστώ.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Ευχαριστούμε. Who else would like to intervene? Ποιος θα ήθελε να μιλήσει, να ρωτήσει, να σκεφτεί ελεύθερα γύρω από αυτές τις νέες τεχνολογίες? Ο συνάδελφος Χαράλαμπος Γάσπαρης.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ. I don't know if I have to speak in English or in Greek. It's more easier for me to speak in Greek, but I'll try in English. Maybe some non-Greek speaking will follow us. I think that the conference was really successful in the way that gave us the opportunity, through all these papers and case studies, to rethink about our digital tools, to listen other cases, and to rethink about how to work. For me, the fundamental question that said also yesterday night Professor Rocher is how to convince the research community to accept our digital tool as a research tools and as a reliable research tool, and then how these data, these digital research tools, to come to go to the public audience. Okay, because I think there are two different kinds of digital tools: the research tools and the tools, the multimedia for the education and the public, the wider public. On my experience developing my database, I have to say that I worked like a traditional researcher. I tried to pose questions on my sources and my information, to develop a research tool, and not, as I said yesterday, for education and public audience. However, these data and this tool, it's easy with a collaboration with a professor, with other, I don't know who, to develop another tool for the education or the public, the wider public. I'm convinced that the historical and the institute, the research centers and the research institutes must start from research tools and to offer to the audience reliable tools based on our credibility as research centers. The second, a short comment, a second I think from all these papers, as it's already said, the second keyword is collaboration, and collaboration in various levels. Today, that all papers have to do with space and time, it's obvious that at least space, it's a common field that we all are interested in, to make reliable maps for our work. I saw that at least for antiquity, Greek, Roman, or later antiquity, there are more works already done, more maps in comparison to Byzantine or medieval or early modern periods. I think this is a field to be developed more, and it needs collaboration. These are the short comments I had to do and maybe to discuss.
Thank you very much, Haralabos Gasparis. There is one suggestion by our colleague from the Institute and from the University, Katerina Gardikas. She suggests about sustainability, a workshop that it's on the 26th of this month, and it's about the sustainability of data from DIAS. I would like to share, can you share this to all the participant panelists and attendees? Is it possible that you can share that? Because this is important. We have one more question. Let me see. This was, okay, sorry. That was an old workshop that it was in 2015. So in 2015, it was dedicated, a DIAS project, a seminar was dedicated to the sustainability of the longevity of data. So who else would like to intervene in this? Brady, yes, hello.
It's for me. Am I allowed to speak?
No, it's Brady Kisling, sorry.
Oh, thank you very much for calling on me. This is a naive question, but it's important. I know that in some fields, European Union money or money from large American bureaucracies comes with a commitment that the data will be open. I don't know how it works here in Greece, but I am curious. One thing to remember is that in many cases, a quite large and complex database can be serialized as a single large JSON file and shared around the world effortlessly, and not be bound by the structure of the original platform that created it. And I'm curious, what's the legal situation in Greece regarding taking data, assembled under an EU grant and serializing it and sharing that serialization?
This is a really difficult question to answer because it has also moral issues and various other restrictions. I don't know if there is someone who would like to answer the question. It's a complicated system, let's say, about this. Now, I see Dr. Kopanias, and then I see also Dr. Karagiannopoulou, right? Dr. Kopanias.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to meet and to hear all these very interesting lectures and papers and following this discussion. I would like to make a practical proposal. Since you had the initiative of organizing this conference, maybe you could also propose or organize a more permanent panel, so where we can all meet and discuss technical issues. I mean, all of us who are interested in these technicalities, speaking about data formats, sustainability, and things like that. So to have a virtual place where we can meet and where we can exchange ideas.
That's a very interesting suggestion. Thank you very much for that. And we will keep in mind that suggestion, and so that we can see a platform or an executive committee, let's say, a rather loose organization that could handle these issues. Dr. Karagiannopoulou, please.
Regarding your first point of sustainability of the database, I see it as a concern, definitely, but not as a problem. I recall Ian Johnson's speech on Wednesday from Australia, that he was mentioning about how he started the database and everything. And now he's in the 6th edition, and it's an open source database, and it's used worldwide. So I think that we should not see it as a problem, the sustainability of the database. It's a concern, but technicians that are always there to develop it are those that will make us adjust to it as they keep doing it. And that's why I think collaboration is the most important. The willingness of collaboration is the most important. And building relations of trust between technicians and humanities.
I have to say, if you allow me, that sustainability, it's not only connected to technical issues, but also funding, because we have all these projects funded by the EU, by national funds, and then after some years, you have to revisit them. You have to sustain them. So who will fund an already funded project in order to reorganize and to keep it alive? That's the main issue that we affront with digital humanities.
The expense factor is indeed very problematic. I tend to be optimistic, and especially after Ian's, again, I repeat that it's an open source database now. I tend to be optimistic, but definitely the factor of expenses is always a problem. And I believe that the role of your institution is major to this. As now you organize all this and you communicate with wonderful projects, it can have a leading role to this whole process. Okay. I hope.
Thank you for giving us, for assigning us more responsibilities.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that technology is a moving target, as we say in the history of science. By the time you have upgraded to a new way of doing it, the next one is right around the corner. And I would like to put into consideration that the most transformative technologies are the ones we do not see coming. For example, right now there are freeware programs that one can speak in one end in English, and the other person in the other end of the line can hear the discussion in Spanish. So we are talking about really, really good automatic translation happening in real time. If the past is of any import, then these things, if it started from English and Spanish, we will see it in Greek in 10 years from now. So perhaps in 20 years from now, you could access any kind of document in almost any kind of language, the same way that today we access Google. And I'm not sure what will our databases need to be doing then. So I think that one of the things if we go into the digital humanities route, we have to consider is that upgrading is often not good enough. One has to take into consideration digital technologies that they appear marginal right now.
There is one more suggestion from Katerina Gardikas, and it's written, again, on the cost of sustainability, it is our colleagues who won't allocate funds. We are the problem. And Evangelini Markou, please.
Yes, because I raised the issue after your suggestion, actually hope dies last. We all hope that everything will last forever. But there are three heads in this Lerner Hydra monster that's called sustainability, which is of course the funding, which is of course the survival of the supports from the technicians, and it is the survival of the person who created the website and its collaborative web. And taking actually based on Charlotte Reche's yesterday's lecture, what she ended up with was this great image with the spider and the ring. And actually, the web of collaborations is what will actually save us all. And yeah, I will finish with that.
Katerina Gardikas, if you would like to speak, I think you can unmute yourself and
thank you. I would just add that it's a question of how we prioritize the funding. If we want to go on and have more and more projects and fund more and more projects, or sustain the old ones.
Yeah, it's sustain the old ones. I mean, you don't throw away what you have done. For instance, now, Kripis and Anavadmis were two projects, one after the other. We invested a lot on these two projects. So who is going to sustain these two old projects? The old projects is the problem, not the new ones. This is the main question.
If I may, what about the copyrights? I mean, when we publish a book, we have an ISBN. And when we re-edit, we republish the book, we have a mention to the old edition. Now, if we take an old database and somebody takes it and for sustain it somewhere, how can we be sure that there will be a recognition for the work that has been done in the first phase? But it's not only a question of naming and titles of the collaborators. It's a question of putting some, let's say, limits to what we had worked on the 2000s, and then in the 2020s, and then in the next decades, as Dr. Tabakis said, that how can we recognize the steps we take with technology if there is not a way to recognize what has been done in a certain time of a project. So I think we have to face this too.
May I say something?
Who is talking now? Yes, Karagiannopoulou. Yes, okay.
I like what it was said before by
Evangelini Markou, yes.
That indeed we have to accept that it's not going to last forever, but it's going to be updated. We have to have trust in the technology as it happens, and updating simple here, it's going to happen sooner or later. And yes, the fund is a thing, seriously, but the impact that these projects have, these digital projects have, both for the researchers and the social impact, and as Brady mentioned, the empowerment, the democratization of this knowledge, it's very important. And even if they're not going to be supported for the next 20 years, byproducts of this primary projects will be born, and they will feed researchers, public. So this is the biggest benefit I see, and keep the hope and positiveness that it will be not expensive in the future, and not.
Well, definitely, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge, let's say. But with hopes, at the end of the month, you can't eat hopes. I mean, you need something more than that. So, who else would like? Yes, Haralabos, of course.
Yes, a short answer to Maria Leoncini about the copyright. I'm not sure, but I think that there is a copyright also in every digital tool. And about reference, you can make a reference to the latest. Always, you must refer to the latest edition, because there are a continuous update of the data of a new version of the digital tool. So there is a copyright as much as there is for books, printed books. I'm not sure if there is anyone else that knows better.
Of course, this is just a typical question. I mean, a question that has not it's not very serious, because I think what the challenge, as our director said, is to be open and to work on digital materials.
It is serious. It is serious. Yes.
But the reference that a site or a web page or a book was visited on the 24th of April 2019 does not show who is behind all this, and when you revisit the page or the material, the digitized material, it's not sure it's the same thing. I mean, if you make a new reference in next year, I mean this year for 2020, and you revisit and you put the reference, again, there is no any mention if it is the same database or the same material or the same book or the same publication than the one that you referred in another previous, let's say, reference in a book or an article or anywhere.
Yeah.
This is quite not clear for us. Of course, we stay open, and we are very happy that we have the opportunity to work on these tools and make some concurrence with our traditional, let's say, tools that we work on methodologies and our historical material generally. So we are open, and as all colleagues said, we are optimistic too.
Okay, I'll give the last word to Nikos Livanos.
Yes, thank you. I think that we've heard a lot of very interesting points and questions, obviously. I think that I have this feeling that historians are chasing technology. They're running behind technology. And the issue is that I'm not really sure that there is a kind of continuous collaboration between historians, between humanities researchers in general, and software developers. So I think that historians have to start visualizing how they can intervene into the technology process to help create the tools that they will be needing. And this, of course, needs a better understanding of what the existing technology is right now, because we've been only talking about databases, but I'm sure that there's more in order to help any historian in their work. And I think that such a collaboration is very much needed. We have to help the people who will help us create the tools for the future. For example, we also have to start a discussion on how artificial intelligence will help the assessment of historical data. I personally haven't heard anything about that in a general discussion during these very few past years, because it's only been a question of last decade. But the thing is that artificial intelligence is running really fast, and we have to start discussing with developers how this can actually help us and what we need them to create in order to help us.
Giorgos Stolias wrote that Maria Leoncini has a point in the previous discussion, that traditional research results to products, digital research to projects. Well, it's a methodology. Evangeline Markou, you're the last. Okay, you are the last.
Just to add to what Nikos has just proposed, which is actually the key to the development of those tools that will help us. And in numismatics, we were very lucky, because for creating the Numisma.org, there was this very inspiring technician who understood and managed to speak the same language with the numismatists. They built this great ontologies website that can be linked from anyone working with numismatics. So actually that's what happened there. And that's a good example to give to what you just said, Nikos. And I think it's really, really, really important to find someone inspiring that will understand what we want to do and who will propose the tools to do it. With that, I will finish my...
Okay, I think as the conference now has been over 3 days, we had a lot of food for thought. We are fine now, and we can reflect on all these issues and come back soon again. I would like to thank you all for the organization effort, which was hard. Kostas Tremoundanis is our good friend who helps all the time. Nikos Androutsopoulos is also assisting us all the time. And of course, all our colleagues here who participated. We would like to thank you all for attending from distance. Thank you all very much. We hope that we will be able to continue collaborating and exchanging ideas. This is very important, I think. So, goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Many thanks to you all.
Bye.
And congratulations.
Bye.
Καλή συνέχεια.
Γεια σας.
Γεια σας.
Γεια σας.